So the gospel passage that we have this morning, I believe to be extraordinarily important for the times that we're living in. What do I mean? If you look really closely at the situation that's taking place beyond the surface, if you will, there are a lot of details that are underneath that surface that emerge in how Jesus interacts with his followers during traumatic and turbulent times, if you will. First, this situation that the apostles find themselves in is a severe storm on the water. And in this storm, they're not just rowing along, they're clearly on the verge of their boat capsizing. If that wasn't enough, they're in the middle of the night. It says that they're in the fourth watch, which that watch begins at the latter end of the night and goes into the morning. It's around 3 a.m. So imagine yourself, I suppose, in something no bigger than a larger fishing boat on something like Sakakawea at 3 o'clock in the morning with a huge thunderstorm raging around you, and you're just trying to get this boat to shore, only you don't even have an engine. All you have is rows. It's a pretty tumultuous time. The fact that they're in the fourth watch of the night, too, is also very significant. Israel was delivered from slavery in Egypt during the third watch of the night, or the fourth watch of the night, excuse me. It was also the time traditionally for satanic worship. And maybe most importantly, it's also the time for the divine judgment in the Old Testament. The second deal that kind of emerges to the surface is it's a time, if you will, of disorder, chaos, evil, duress, upheaval in this fourth watch in the storm in the middle of the night. And it's during this time that Jesus then manifests his divine authority over this incredibly disordered situation. It says he came walking to them on the sea. The third point is that Peter then, at the command of Jesus, is also able to exert divine authority as long as he's fixated on Christ. But the moment that he loses sight of him, becomes sort of preoccupied with the storm and the fact that he's actually doing something beyond human nature, it's in that moment that he disconnects from divinity and on his own, like us, in this particular situation of great duress, is completely lost. Finally, even though Peter fails in this task of doing what Christ is doing and loses sight of Christ, the Lord doesn't lose sight of him. And once Jesus is in the boat with all of them, immediately the entire situation turns to peace. So we say again, what on earth does this have to do with us? I think it has everything to do with us right now, in this particular point in time that we're living in. As we look out into the sea of humanity, we once again see the waters of human existence troubled. And if we're honest about it, right now there's quite possibly more evil, disorder, upheaval, and dysfunction that has ever existed, maybe since the flood. And the storm that we have been facing or are faced with is no longer at a distance, but rather this hurricane is more visible day by day as we enter deeper into it. We are, so to speak, being tossed by the winds in the boat of life, and we know it. And let's be honest, this doesn't appear to be getting back to normal anytime soon. For that matter, this may be the first time in all of our adult lives, no matter what age we're at, that we don't really know where we're going. That we don't really have any idea what the fall or the winter may have for us. What will next week, next month, next year look like for all humanity? How many have I talked to in the last 3 months that have asked that very question? And if this were not enough in this present situation, we are also seeing the collapse of human relationship, the erosion of common sense, and mainstream insanity spread across the globe like a flood. No one seems to have an objective answer for the times that we are living in. And yet, everybody has an opinion based upon their own subjective interpretation. Friends, that is global madness. But then again, behold the fruit of what we have sowed. Behold the effects of what we have made. Witness the truth of what happens when we disregard morality for an entire century. When we've cast off and redefined natural laws of who we are. I mean, really, is it any wonder that man is going mad when we've been living in total madness? Men marrying men, women marrying women. Men apparently becoming women, women becoming men. And the slaughter of 1.5 billion of our precious children. And for those of their generation who survived the Holocaust, they inherited a world of immorality, atheism, and godlessness. Friends, this gospel is more relevant than ever before because it teaches the little remnant of true followers of Christ that in this fourth watch of time, Jesus in his divinity has authority even over this disorder and chaos if we are willing to return to him. Furthermore, we are also able to possess this authority if we keep our eyes fixated upon Christ in the deepest and most intimate union with his sacred heart. And even in this chaos, if we sink a little, if we let him back into our boat, all will be well. So what do we do as we enter into the fall and the winter? First off, if you have something in your life that you know that the Lord wants you to let go, now is the time for true conversion and repentance. Give it the old college try to give whatever it is in your life out of it. And yes, it may take some sacrifice. It may take some penance. But nobody ever promised any of us as Christians that following Jesus would be easy. That's a lie of the modern time. And it may become more difficult than we think as time moves on. Second, confession, 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 confession. Especially now that we've been locked away for a while and the soul can get a little sluggish. Now is the time for zealous repentance. And the third is that now is the time to get as close to Jesus as possible. Or you simply will just not be able to navigate the times that we are in, and especially the times that are coming. Christ is the truth. And yes, we say, okay, he's the religious truth. He's given us the gospel. He's far beyond that. The devil is a liar and a full-blown illusionist. And right now, we are living in absolute chaos because of subjective opinion. It doesn't matter any longer. It used to just be that everybody was an expert in religion. We kind of joke about it as priests, right? Everybody has a doctorate in religion. Because since the Reformation until now, everybody's entitled to their subjective view on what you want to believe. We hear it all the time. Well, you believe what you believe, but I believe. Underneath that is, there's no real objective reality of what God believes. It's whatever you believe God believes. And since it's religion and the world has convinced us that it really doesn't matter much, so what? Well, theology is the highest of sciences, and once that's eroded away, it slowly but surely sifts into everything else. To the point now, when we talk to doctors, they sort of joke about it in the same way. You don't need to go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a medical degree any longer. Just get on Google. And then bring your information and research into my office, because you too are an expert. And so now that we're faced with a pandemic, it has become a chaos because everybody's an expert on both sides of the polarization of what we're supposed to be doing, and it's not going to be going back to normal. And so being connected to Christ means that you are connected to the objective reality of life. And therefore, you are able to navigate through this pandemonium while everybody else is going to lose their mind. St. Anthony of the Desert in the early 500 years of the church said, "In the end, a time is coming when those who are sane will be called mad, and the mad will be called sane." Discern for yourselves where we're at. And so staying in the deepest relationship with Christ so that you are of his mind is of the essence to your life now. And so not just Sunday Mass. If what we believe about what we receive from this altar is true, that it is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ himself, then why not daily Mass? 12:15, fast from your lunch at least a few times a week and come to receive the food from heaven which will sustain your spirit in times of madness. How about 1 hour of one day a week to come in for Eucharistic adoration? Do you really believe that the Eucharist is God? Because there are 168 hours in a week. Do you have one to come and spend with your Lord if you truly believe that he is here? And then we get, I work, Father, all these things. Everyone, I see people taking off time for everything under the sun, especially in the summer. Do we have 1 hour a week to come and receive from him everything that we're looking for? And more. To spend an hour in adoration is like Peter to step out onto the water with your eyes completely and totally locked with Christ's, doing what the divine is able to do. In the words of St. Augustine, our hearts are restless until they rest in him, and until this world returns to him, it will not have peace. Finally, if you have not already, please take up the rosary. Maybe I've failed you a little bit in this area by not preaching enough about it. But the rosary is truly the prayer of the laity. And it wasn't so long ago that families, more than not, prayed it together at least once a week as a family. It is not only the laity prayer, but it's the prayer of the family. And for those who pray it, Our Lady spreads her mantle over them in protection, like the mother of all mothers. The time is now. For I really believe that there is little time left. The Lord is extending his hand and still inviting all to come. Will you walk on the water? Or will you perish in the storm?